everyone, my name is Stu from the York County Library, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make a yarn chandelier. So we're going to start off with what you'll need for this project. 3 balls of yarn, 2 flat nose pliers, a pair of scissors, 3 embroidery hoops, a hardcover book, some decorative wooden beads, jump hoops, ceiling hooks, and some metal chain. Alright, we're going to begin with taking the embroidery hoops and separating the 2 pieces. You're really only going to need that inner wooden piece without the metal part. You can just put those to the side and maybe use them for a different project. But all we're going to need is the inner pieces. Alright, we're going to start off with making our tassels out of the yarn. And you want a hardback book because, as you can see, there's a gap between the pages and the cover. And we're going to use that to be able to slide in the string to tie it and the scissors to cut it. So we're starting off by wrapping the yarn around the book. I'm going to do that 20 times. It depends on how thick or thin you want your yarn tassels to be. I thought 20 seemed about good to me, so that's how many I did for each tassel. And you're just going to hold that end tight as you wrap it. And when you stop, you're going to end at the bottom of the book. And you're going to cut your excess yarn. And this is where I was telling you about having that space in between the cover and the pages, because you're just going to slide a little like a 4-inch piece of cut string to tie off. That's going to be the top of the tassel. And you're going to tie it around the wrapped yarn you just had. And tie it as tight as possible with like 2 knots. It's going to hold it really well. And the top of that yarn is what you're going to tie to the embroidery hoop. And then you're going to go to the other side and cut the end of the yarn. And that's going to be the bottom of your tassel. And then you'll take that right off the book. And this is what it should look like. So now once you have your tassel, we're going to make the top part of the tassel. So it kind of looks like a little ghost. You're going to take another 4-inch piece of cut yarn. You're going to lay it under and tie it. And once again, pull it as tight as possible and double knot it. Then you're going to take the ends of that yarn and cut it off. And don't forget to not cut off the top part, because that's what you're going to use to tie to the top. And so once you've made many of these, I would sit down, binge a show, or listen to a podcast while you do this, because it might take a while. But once you have about, I use 25 for the big hoop. So once you have 25, you can go ahead and start tying them to your largest embroidery hoop. You're going to take those 2 top strings and do a double knot around the top. And it's going to look like this. And you're just going to repeat that step over and over. I spaced mine out to get it how I wanted it. And you can add more or less depending on how you want your yarn chandelier to look. If you want it really full, add more than 25. If you want it less, do less than that. But it's really up to you. Here's what it's going to look like after. It might look a little not neat, but later we'll come back and we'll trim up the bottoms of the tassels and make it look a little nicer. You can also brush them out to get the curls out of some of the yarn. Alright, so once you've tied all your tassels to your embroidery hoops, I'm holding it up here to tell where I want my second layer to line up. How far apart do I want them to hang from each other? Alright, now we're going to get started on the metal chains. So what I was doing in the last clip was I was holding up my hoops to see how long I want my metal chains to be to hang up each of the hoops. So I wanted about 5 inches between each hoop. So I'm just taking my flat nose pliers and I'm pulling apart my metal chain to make segments of 5 inches each, and making sure that each chain is exactly the same length. This will be important later on because if they're not the same length, it'll kind of dangle to one side and it won't be exactly even. So you want to make sure these are exactly the same. So it's going to be 3 metal chains holding up the bottom loop, and then 3 metal chains holding up the middle loop to the top loop. And then we'll tie off the top with some string. And I'm just pulling apart the little metal rings, and then I'm tightening them back. Now we're going to do 3 more. Now that I've got all 6 of my metal chains, we are going to attach them to the embroidery hoops. Put those off to the side, and we're going to take our jump rings. And these are pretty big jump rings because I want them to be able to fit around the embroidery hoop. Taking my flat nose pliers again and pulling that ring apart so I can fit it around the embroidery hoop. And then I'm just kind of tightening it back. This can be kind of difficult. It really works best with 2 flat nose pliers. I tried to mess with it with my fingers. Didn't work out for me. Then I'm just attaching that chain onto the hoop, the jump ring. So once I've got that metal chain through my jump ring, I'm going to tighten that jump ring back so it's holding onto my chain and the embroidery hoop. And here what I'm doing is I'm counting out the spaces between my tassels so I can get an equal distance between each of the 3 chains. It's okay if it's not exactly perfect. Mine wasn't exactly perfect, but it still worked out in the end. And I'm just taking another jump ring and separating it with my flat nose pliers. I counted out the spaces, picked my spot. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to hold on to that jump ring and attach my chain. And then I'm going to close it back up with my pliers. All right, we got 2 on, and then that third one, I'm going to try to space it out as evenly as possible. And there we go. I got all 3 on now, and we're going to move on to the middle sized embroidery hoop. So to help me space out where I want the ones for my middle, I'm going to put the little one inside of it so I can line up the smaller jump rings to the middle hoop. So I'm just doing the exact same thing like I was last time, but I'm opening up the end of my chain so I can attach that chain to the middle section. And then I'm closing up that metal chain so it's nice and tight and it's gonna hold. And I'm gonna do the same thing for the other two. Taking the chain and lining it up to the middle hoop. Opening up the chain, that last little chain link, and then putting it through my big jump hoop, my jump ring. And there we go. Now the smaller embroidery hoop is attached to the middle one. And it hangs nice and evenly because our chains are the same length. So now what you're going to do is, now the small is attached to the middle one, we're going to take the largest hoop and attach it all together. So this one, we're just going to need the chains from the middle one attached to jump rings on the bigger one. I'm doing the same thing. You can see I'm lining it up so it's all even. And there we go. They're all three attached together. And our final step is going to be making the top of the chandelier to hold it to the ceiling hook. So I'm going to follow the same rule as the other ones. I'm going to line it up where the chains are, but you can really use anything to hold up your chandelier. You could do metal chain, you could do yarn, you can do any kind of string you have around. I didn't have enough metal chain to do the top like I wanted, but I had this nice coarse thick like hemp rope, and I figured that would look really nice with the beads, so I went with this. So I'm going to start by measuring out 3 strings that are all the same length and making sure they're perfect. And then I'm going to tie them to each side where the metal chains are. And I just slid it right through that jump hoop. And I'm going to tie a double knot right through the ring. I'm going to do the same thing on the other 2 sides as well. Put it through the jump hoop and then tie it with a double knot. And once again, if you keep following the same spot for each ring, it's going to ensure that when you hang up your chandelier, it's not going to be tilting to one side. It'll keep it mostly level. And now once I've got my 3 strings on, I'm gonna hold it up and you can see I'm trying to tell whether or not it's level. And it looks good to me, so I'm gonna go ahead and move on to decorating the strings. To give it more of like a boho look, I'm going with wooden beads. Then I'm gonna thread onto each one, and this is just gonna make it look really polished and nice. You can leave them plain if you want to, it'll still look great. You can use colored beads or anything that you like to kind of decorate and finish it off. And there we have it. All my beads are on, and my last step is I'm going to tie them in a knot at the top and make sure we're having them even. And then I'm just trimming that excess string, and there you have it. It is all ready to go. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, make sure to check out more videos on our York County Library YouTube page. There's plenty of videos to stay creative. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!